Hello, welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. My name is Beth Ann. It's a rainy gray Tuesday, but I made time to come home a little bit early so I could finally make a booktube video because it's been a while since I updated. I still need to work on getting into a new schedule of life as a new professor that includes booktube time because I really miss it. But today, what I wanted to talk about briefly is Gift from the Sea by Anne Morrow Lindbergh. And this is a collection of essays that she published for the first time in the 1950s. And then I think this was a republishing that she did 20 years or so later. Yeah, so this is from 1975 is when this edition was published. And so she has an afterword that was really interesting. It was very short, but she just, sort of commented on how strange it was to read her writing from 1950 or 1955 when she'd been in a very different stage of life than she was in 1975 when she updated the afterword. So this is a collection of essays, and they are a little bit naturalistic. So each essay takes inspiration from a shell that she finds on a beach. She wrote these essays, or at least conceived of them, during a writing retreat on a little beach island, and would go for walks, find beautiful shells, collect them, and then would be sort of ruminating and finding inspiration in the shells. So each essay has sort of a different shell as the focal point and sort of the jumping off point for the essay. But then the essays are focused a lot on sort of her sense of self, the tension of balancing motherhood with other things in your life, relationships, whether those be romantic or platonic relationships, and the importance of them and what we gain from them and what makes them so important. And just a lot about, just in all these different ways, how do we survive in modern life, which even though she was writing in 1955, which is no longer modern, still so much of this held true. Just as a way of just thinking through all of the busyness and all of the things that pull on our time, and thinking about the importance of reflection and having time to oneself, and that sort of thing. So I felt like these were nice, like, grounding essays for today in 2022. They are a teeny bit outdated just in terms of the way that she thinks about gender roles and like household chore roles. She was clearly, I think, fairly well ahead of her time, at least in terms of the American cultural norm in 1955. But there is still a fair amount of that, sort of an assumption that, like what womanhood is or like what motherhood is, are different things to her than I think they would be to some of the popular essayists of our time who are writing on similar topics. So just to note that. But I did find these beautifully written, and they definitely made me reflect and sort of pause and take some deep breaths, and feel grounded. So I highly recommend them for that reason. The other nice thing sort of personally about these is that I think this was my grandmother's copy of this book, maybe, but my mom wrote a note in it. Yeah, well, she doesn't specify whose copy, but I'm pretty sure it was my grandmother's copy of this book. But my mom wrote a note that this was one of her favorite books and one of my grandmother's favorite books. And so I appreciated reading it just for that reason as well, because both my mom and her mom were sort of pioneering in sort of their own quiet ways, in what it meant to be a woman and to have a family and be a mother in the 20th century. My grandma had a master's degree that she earned in the 1940s, and worked outside the home for most of her adult life. And my mother got a PhD in astrophysics in the 1970s and then was a professor for most of her adult life. So both sort of pioneers and people for whom, as I'm reading this book, I'm thinking, oh yeah, this book was probably like incredibly meaningful for them to read at those periods of time. So sort of a nice connection there. So yeah, I highly recommend Gift from the Sea by Anne Morrow Lindbergh, especially if you like just a teeny little bit of natural history and natural observation in your reflective essays on what it means to be a person in a very busy society. So that's what I've got for today. I will try to be back soon. I do have a lot of videos I would like to make sharing more of my recent reading because I have been reading a lot more than I've been making booktube videos, and sharing my thoughts about booktube prize books, because of course that is over, but I think I am 2 rounds behind in sharing my thoughts about booktube prize books, but that was a really fun contest and I'm glad I took part. So I'll be back at some point in the near future. Thanks for watching and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.